Hey everybody, welcome to the Linux Cast. I'm your host, Matt.
And I'm Drew.
Mr. Tyler is off this week, but we shall carry on and talk about Linux-y things and open sourcey things and all of the stuff that goes along with it. But before we jump in, we actually have a mini topic, and I believe, Drew, that this was your mini topic, even though I chose it. So we'll let you go first. I believe you probably know what it is better than I do. I should get the notes up. You know, all that preparedness stuff.
The question is, for our mini topic, is owning too many USB sticks a cry for help?
Yes.
So
No.
Nate's going first. There we go. And we're off.
The question I have is, how many do you guys actually have? Because I'm very curious about this number, because I feel like I have a lot, but I also feel like there's people who could have more. So how many have?
I lost count. I have a whole box full of them.
You have more than I do then. So I guess I don't feel bad. Drew, how about you? How many do you have?
I'm not using them currently, except one. I have one that's actually, that's not true. I have 3 on my desk right now. But I have about, I would say, a baker's dozen to 16 thereabouts.
I'm going to lose this competition. I guess I lose my nerd cred because I have one that I use, and then I have this. I don't know if you guys can actually see this thing here. This little case thing. I have that full of them, and that has like 1, 2. This has 4 in it.
Okay.
So I do have more somewhere, because on Amazon you get like a 10-pack or whatever. I think I have that, but they've been lost. Really, the only one that I use is this random Chinese brand thing that I have Ventoy on. So what do you guys have on? So you guys have way more than I do.
That used to be the case, where it's like, I guess, pre-Ventoy, I needed a lot of USBs because I was distro hopping to my heart's content and actually like putting a piece of paper down, and then an associated USB stick would go in a specific slot on the piece of paper that said Linux Mint 18 point something. And then so I didn't have to like plug it in to actually look at what it was. I would just like look down at my piece of paper where it was conspicuously like notated. And so, yeah, I had like a whole list of what I was using each USB for. So I don't know if that's a cry for help. I think it's digital nesting is what it is. So
I think that we need to pause here for a second and just make fun of Drew for all of his organization skills, because that's ridiculous. He's never had the experience of just plugging one USB key in after another, trying to figure out which one had the ISO you were searching for, and then eventually saying, fuck it, I'm just going to download it again.
Yeah, my problem is totally opposite with Drew's. My problem is I lose them. And then I buy another one, or 5. I lose them. I buy 5 more. I lose them. I buy 5 more, and then find all the ones that I just lost.
When you redid your office, I got a box full. When you redid your office, how many did you find?
Oh, I found the box.
That's great.
So how many was in the box?
I don't even want to look. It's a box. It's about this big. It's about that deep, about that wide, and it's just full of them. So I don't even try to count.
It's amazing how much Ventoy has changed that behavior, because I haven't used those ones that are in that pack that I showed you. I don't think I've used in 2 years, maybe even longer, because like all I do with a USB stick is the Ventoy stuff. That's all I ever do with it. Everything else is put on bigger hard drives because it's all too big, and it's much easier just to have a gigantic JBOD full of hard drives and then share everything over an FS or Samba or something than having.
This is my Ventoy drive now. It
That's
just has
good.
a SATA SSD in it, and that's 512, I think. Yeah, and I have tons of ISOs on it.
Have you guys ever actually updated Ventoy? Because you're supposed to update it, and I've just never done it. You guys ever done that?
I you know what? I stopped using Ventoy. I just because I have one need.
That's the Debian guy, right? Just talking.
Well, okay. So story here, because last podcast, a challenge was issued. DT, DistroTube, the man, the myth, the smartly shaven, and I were challenged to switch distros. He go to Debian and I go to Arch. I don't know if he did it. I accepted the freaking challenge and I spent the better part of a week on Arch. And I got to say, it's been a revelation. You know, it's been fast and clean and installs packages in a breeze. And I don't know if I'm going to go back to Debian. So, I know that I've made the jump to a rolling release lifestyle, so no more Debian. And I know you all be disappointed, but to all of you, I have just one thing to say. April Fools.
Yeah, and then we knew that.
Did I set that up badly?
The worst April Fools. Like, we knew that was coming.
Oh.
The mini says, I'm never going back to Debian again, and that's where I got it. You had me believing it that you would try Arch, and then you just oversold
I went
it.
Far. Just too far.
I had him pegged as soon as he said I tried Arch, and I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. And Drew, I will bet you $100 that you couldn't use Arch for a week. We got to appeal to his pride, Nate.
Oh.
His pride in his wallet.
Yeah.
I don't have $100.
No. You don't have to get in on the action. $100 should be enough. Yeah. We're just hoping he's a cheap sell.
Yep. Yeah, I could do without the $100. I'm just saying.
That's what I'm talking about. So if there's any Debian developers out there, part of the Debian project, just know that we found your number one fan. He won't sell you guys out for anything.
You could. Okay, how about this? I do the challenge and you send $100 to the Debian Foundation.
Yeah, I'll do that.
God.
But it has to be on the main
said
machine.
Nate spent all of his money on USB drives. You're not wrong.
There, you know what though? Okay, so what is on the USB sticks that you have, Nate? Or is it all? Well, I guess you have one, but I mean, of the box, do you know what's on any of the things that's on the box box?
I think a lot of them have, like, because back in the day I couldn't afford drives, so all of my like old pictures and stuff are on those. And then I kind of switched over to, like, I have one USB drive for one particular ISO that I created. And so I have a mess of those too. But yeah, I think a lot of them is just old pictures and videos and whatnot. Nothing crazy.
There was one I had, this one, and I don't know what's on it, and I'm a little bit afraid because I have no idea, and I just want to make sure that there's nothing nefarious on there. So I have not actually put it into a USB slot because I'm a little bit afraid.
Yeah, and for the audio listeners, we're having a little bit of show and tell here.
This is the one that I never plug into any of my systems.
Does that have like a system bomb on it or something?
They do a lot more than that.
Oh.
It's a little bad boy.
Why do you even keep? In case you come across a spy that you need to,
No, it's called Dumb Days in College.
Oh.
And we thought it was funny.
Okay.
And you just kept it around for the next 20 years. It's fine. And all of a sudden your wife says, "Hey, I need a USB key. Can I borrow one?" I borrowed the one that I found in your...
The one I can never keep track of is my Gparted or whatever rescue tool that I was using before. That's the one I always have to go and download it again because I can never find that one. And that's always a nightmare, but all right.
See, for me, I think all mine are ISOs, but I am so old that I have the same problem you guys have, but with CDRs, like old-fashioned CDR discs. I have my entire iTunes library from like 2006 or something like that on a whole like spindle of CDR ROMs. And I haven't, first off, it's not like they just, when you backed up your iTunes library, they didn't like just copy the MP3s over to the discs. They did it in a proprietary format, so you couldn't even read them if you wanted to. I don't know why I keep them, but I have them here somewhere. just in case I ever need to get that music back. I have to download like a VM of iTunes or some shit. All right, let's go ahead then and move on to our main topic. So this is, when I chose this one, I wasn't sure about it. So we're going to see if we can't make it less dry than it sounds. But the question that I have for you guys tonight is, we'll just start generally. Do you think that if something is open source, that automatically makes it more secure? So that's the general question I have for you guys. So who wants to go first? Drew.
Okay. I think there is a separation between transparency and expertise. Open source can be audited, but does anybody do that? Does anybody actually audit the code is the question?
Besides the developer?
Yeah.
Probably not.
And, go ahead.
Ain't that technically what the community's for?
Yeah.
Yeah, but does
anyone actually audit the code?
Quick poll of the chat. Have you ever actually went to audit a piece of code that was written by someone else? And we
once. That was it.
I will actually make an actual poll.
I think there's an illusion of security versus actual peer review here. I think that we all want so desperately to believe that there is transparency, that there is security, that there is nothing nefarious going on. And we really take that like leap to, to go with that kind of like mindset that this is open source, so it must have the best intentions. But we, as we've seen, there have been examples of like the XZ utils issue, where a project was truly the privacy was going to be bad for everybody and every single server on the internet. It was really, really close to a catastrophe. Very close.
Yeah. I think,
and we got lucky. And as far as peer review is concerned, that one developer that just realized, hey, this is like a half a second slower than it actually should be. And for that to prompt him to go and look at the code on that half second delay in response, wow.
It's crazy. The thing is, though, that guy worked for Microsoft. He was getting paid, right? And I don't think that he was being paid to review code, but I think that I think that this probably does happen. I think that there are people out there who review code, but they're all developers. And one of the things I always have a problem with open source is that one of the claims that people who are zealots or people who will proclaim open source is the best thing since sliced bread. One of the things that they'll say as the reason why that's true is because it's open, because you can review the code. And my response to that is like, but nobody can. Nobody actually can. Like, in the grand scheme of things, when you're counting like the actual number of people who can go and look at a Haskell file or a Lua file and say, hey, that has a security flaw, is very minuscule. Like, that's a very small number of people in the community who can actually do this. The rest of us are just living in the browser or installing Debian over and over again. I'm sorry, Dad. But you know what I mean? Like, we're all just we're relatively normal users who don't spend our time learning C or Lua or Rust or whatever. And if someone told us to go review code, we wouldn't know how to do it.
Yeah, because we don't have the skill set. Right. That's a fact.
That's just the vast majority of people. So having the argument that something being open source is better because you can review the code is a non-starter, because the vast majority of people can't review the code. It's just they can't do it. It's not that they don't want to. Instead, and this is what you're saying, Drew, is that we live on a hope and a prayer that there's someone out there who can review it because it's possible, and that they are. And sometimes that's true, like with the XZ thing that you were talking about. Sometimes, the chances of someone reviewing the code of some random GitHub thing that has to do with i3 or BSPWM, pretty small, because other than outside of the project itself, people probably just aren't reviewing it; they're just using it.
Yeah.
Did we
I
just
agree with that.
did we just exhaust the topic in
Well,
5 minutes?
I mean, you got to understand too, there are corporate backed open source tools too, like Microsoft has, and Meta and Google projects that are contributing towards open source tools. Case in point, the Chromium. And how much does Google actually, how much does Google how much code does Google actually put into an open source project, Chromium? More than 80%, like a lot more than 80% of the code is by way of Google. Does that corporate backing and that like contribution, does that hurt or help the trust? Is it genuine or is it strategic?
Well, it's not just Chromium too. Like if you look at the contributors to the Linux kernel itself, the vast majority of them are Microsoft, Intel, Oracle, OpenSUSE, or not OpenSUSE, but SUSE, Red Hat, obviously. Now, obviously, there's
AMD.
AMD, yeah, NVIDIA. Like all of them contribute to the kernel, and the amount of code that actually comes from people who are just like regular Joe Schmoes off the street is pretty low when compared to the rest of them. So that's a good question, Drew. I just don't know the answer because you have to. There's the corporatist answer, like without them, none of it would get done because they have the money and they're paying to do it. And then there's the anti-corporatist answer, like everything that corporations do is about making money, therefore it can't possibly be good. And which side you come down on really depends on where you are in terms of like a political spectrum of corporatism, right, or capitalism even.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I've never had a problem with corporations being involved in this kind of thing, simply because I take the point of view like if they don't do it, no one's gonna because someone has to be making money somewhere in order for something to get done, at least in capitalism. And if there's no money to be had, then there's
that's what I think.
Right?
What you just said, I think, Matt, answers the second question. I said, does corporate backing help or hurt trust? The second question was, is it genuine or strategic? I don't think anybody could make a claim that it is not strategic. I think that everything that they do, there is a strategy, a profit-seeking strategy involved in their contribution to open source projects. So because of that, it answers the first question. The first question is, does it help or hurt trust? I do not trust what the strategic corporate backed entities that we're talking about and how much code they are actually lending. There's nothing there, there's nothing genuine about what they're doing. It's for their own pockets. They're trying to line their pockets. And I don't blame them. I don't really blame anybody for making money. But let's not let's not pretend, okay?
I think I'm with you. It's just there has to be a fine line and a balance there between complete and utter distrust and living in the woods and just using the best that like a trust but verify type of system that I think falls away when the verification of it is something that only a certain small portion of people can actually do. But
Well, okay.
Go ahead.
That explains the whole concept of FOSS itself, though, because the code is there, so not just the corporations are actually reviewing it. Anybody else can get in and also review it. And so that within itself, that's where I say that FOSS is a little bit more secure, because it's not just a corporation coming in and saying, oh, well, we're doing this code and maintaining it. Now anybody else can also get on GitHub or wherever they have it hosted, look at the same code, and maybe somebody even smarter, just like, hey, I've got a vulnerability here. At the same time, does that always happen? No. Most of the time, it's just corporations that are actually looking at it, and they're there to make money.
So
It's just a fact.
we can make the argument, I think, that the possibility of code auditing makes open source more secure, or makes it possibly more secure, whereas proprietary software doesn't have the ability for other people to go and audit it. Therefore, it has less oversight than what FOSS potentially has, because we can't say that it always has that oversight, just sometimes, right? I guess the real question then becomes, how do you think that this, because we've been talking very big picture, and we got into corporatism and capitalism there for a second, and that all happens with the big projects, the Linux kernel, the libraries that go into making the Linux kernel work, drivers, things like that. But when we're talking like little bitty projects,
Yeah.
How do you answer our main question when you think of the ones that don't have corporate influence at all?
This is an interesting, because you can go one step further in Matt, because let's just say you're looking at GitHub and you see this light little project and you were like, man, that's a really cool idea for a project. And then they have either a GPL or an MIT or an Apache license or something like that attached to it. And I always wonder, what is the idea behind that licensing? And does that make them more trustworthy, less trustworthy? Or does anyone even look at that is the question.
That's the thing I say is like, or does it mean that they just chose the first one in the list?
Maybe.
Because I'm pretty sure that's what I do with all mine. It's just the first one on the list. I don't know if anybody knows, but does anybody know if because it feels like they should have the GPL or whatever that as the top one on the list, but I don't think they are. I think it's alphabetical. So maybe just people are choosing the one that's the top, right?
Yeah.
I can look it up.
It could be like Apache.
While you're
Apache
talking.
might be one of the first ones on the list because it's an A. But the truth of the matter is, I don't know that I look at those thinking, well, that licensing impacts my willingness to even try the project. I don't think anybody cares that much. Maybe I'm the only one that doesn't, but I just think I don't even consider it that much.
I mean, I think the thing is that you only care about the license if you think that there's a possibility that you're going to fork it and contribute to it, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
And if there's no possibility that you're ever going to do that, what does it really matter what the license is, as long as because people don't think of open source as a collection of licenses. They just think it's on GitHub, therefore it's open source. And that is it's wrong, because not everything on GitHub is open source, but they think because I can see the code, therefore I can do whatever I want with it. And I mean, if just random Joe Smoke goes out there and forks something on GitHub that is licensed that you aren't supposed to fork it, I don't think, most the company's not going to care unless you actually go start making money with that thing, and then in which case they're going to send their lawyers after you. But I think that the vast majority of people just, maybe they fork something to save something, but they don't have no intention of contributing to it. I know personally, I can probably count on one hand the number of times I've went and looked at what something's licensed under, and I think they're all having to do with like the podcast. Like I had to go look for the podcast because we were talking about it or something. Like every other time I was like no, I don't care. I'm just going to use it. So
Yeah, so I looked it up. It's not alphabetical order, but the little small project that I was working on, we just put ours under the GNU General Public License, V3.
So what's at the top, Nate? Just curious.
For me, MIT came up first.
That's interesting. Kyle God in the chat said that it was Apache. So I wonder if they shuffle them. That'd be fucking hilarious.
It might be.
Maybe they realized that's exactly what people were doing, was choosing the first one. So they decided to just randomize it. That'd be the funniest thing ever.
Let me ask you guys then this, because Matt uses a browser that is not open source. I didn't mean to toss you under the bus or anything like that. That's a fact. Do we tend to choose things that are open source, or are we more, because of technical shortcomings, are we willing to venture out? I guess the way to phrase it would be, given everything being equal, do we choose the open source project over one that may be closed, or do we even care? Because I know why you do it, Matt, as far as Vivaldi is concerned. I know exactly why you choose Vivaldi, is because you can't get the same functionality with something else. If you wanted to go with Firefox, you couldn't, because it doesn't have the same functionality that that Vivaldi has for you. So that is your choice. I don't have the same, I don't have the same need. So I go with Firefox because it's open source, and I want them so desperately to be better than what they are, so desperately. But the truth of the matter is I try to, but I'm not like emotionally like wed to going with open source for the sake of it just being for the sake of an ideology or from some type of ethical perspective.
I think where I come from is that, and you're exactly right. It's all about functionality to me. I am there are some people in the Linux community, in the open source community, who are very staunchly open source forward, right? Where they just refuse to use anything proprietary. I am at the opposite end of that spectrum. I want things that work. And for me, Linux works really, really well, therefore I'll use it. If Linux was trash, I'd probably still be on Windows. And I didn't choose Linux because it was open source. I chose it because it worked better and Windows sucks. For my browser choice, it was I didn't choose Vivaldi because it was proprietary. I chose it because it had the functionality that I wanted. And that's basically where I am on every decision. Does it have the functionality that I need? Does it work the way that I want it to? Can I theme it if that's an important thing? Does it have, whatever, and then I'll use it. If the other thing that, if two things were exactly equal, like they both had the exact same features, then yes, I'd always choose the open source one. But very rarely are you in a situation where you come up against two things. One's proprietary, one's open source, and you can say they're exactly the same. The only difference is this one here is proprietary, this one here is open source, and choose between them. I don't think that there's any example I can give you that's a choice that you're able to make, right? Do you guys, what of the proprietary sphere, what proprietariness do you guys have tainting your soul? Do you have anything that you rely on that you really enjoy working with that's proprietary?
Yeah, DaVinci Resolve, because it actually saves my files. Anyways,
Yeah, that's one.
I'm looking at you, Katie Love. I'm looking at you. Get your crap together.
What about you, Drew? Do you have anything proprietary that you need to confess about?
I'm racking my brain here, Matt.
Drew's just a good old boy using all FOSS software.
Yeah, I can't think of anything right off the bat. That's for sure. Yeah, no, I can't think of anything really.
Well, to be fair too, like I'm kind of in the same boat that you are, Matt, because if it wasn't for the fact that Apple hardware was so stinking expensive, I probably would have moved to Apple back in the day and just had Macs. And that's just a fact.
Yeah.
But I was poor, so I moved to Linux.
See, the thing is, my reason for switching to Linux was so fucking weird that I can't compare it to any place. Because I switched to Linux. I mean, I didn't like Windows, but I didn't think about switching to Linux until I wanted to create a podcast. So that's the reason why I use Linux, is because I wanted to create a podcast. Nobody else has that reason. It's unique to me. But I have a question for you, Drew. You couldn't name a single proprietary piece of software that you rely on. Is that a choice that you've actually made, or it just happened to be that way?
No, I don't think, no. If I really needed to use something, I would. I mean, if that was the case, I don't know that I steer away. I don't think it's some type of ideology difference that I just think I will not be using that because it's, because it is closed source or whatever. No, I just can't think of anything really. Because I have so few tools to use. I use text editor, browser, terminal. I mean, even the videos that I do. Oh, is Audacity? Audacity is not.
No, Audacity is still open source.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. Even the videos that I do, I use like a command line to actually edit the videos. So no, I actually don't use anything that is closed.
So
I feel weird about. I feel kind of like I should shower or something like that.
Maybe you should go get some proprietary stuff just so you can be like the rest of us. Peer pressure. So I use DaVinci Resolve. I use Vivaldi, which is source open or source available, I guess is what they call it. I use Deezer, which is proprietary. and on Linux. I use AnyType, which is something that I've been trying to transition over to. I use Obsidian, which is closed source. I'm just going through my list here of things that I use. That's basically it. But I think that that's more than probably most people who proclaim themselves as false
Well, I mean,
evangelists.
I use VS Code.
That's
Well,
going to be
That's
yeah.
that'll be one that gets a lot of people who are consider
Mhm.
themselves FOSS zealots because a lot of them use VS Code.
But
Yeah.
I mean, there is VS Codium. Is there no like
Ha! That
feature
is a good one.
difference?
Thank you, Fraggle. Drew, you aren't as pure as you think you are. You use Discord.
That's fair. Yep, that's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
Discourse
Ha
closed.
ha! We got you, sucker.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
That's
No,
probably
but
not
because
the
I
only
was
one.
I was thinking also, I was like, okay, so I use Proton VPN, I use Proton Pass, both of them open source, from what I understand at least. So yeah, I do use Discord, and I feel icky about it now. So sorry.
Yeah, now we're gonna have to leave Discord so that Drew can have his card back. So I guess. So just to revisit earlier, we put out a poll. Have you ever audited someone else's code? 71% said no. 29% said yes. I'm actually quite surprised that the yes was that high. To be honest, we got 45 votes. I would like to put like a survey out and ask, like, was it just one time? Because technically, I've reviewed code just one time. Here's a funny story. I reviewed a Perl program. It was a fetching program. The funny thing is, I don't know a lick of fucking Perl. Like I know none of it. I couldn't even tell you how to create a for or an if statement in Perl. No clue. But I reviewed it and found a typo in it. So it was my first like open source contribution. The stupidest thing ever. But it counts, I suppose. If that's, I could vote yes in that poll. So I'm curious if the people who answered yes are like me, who've done it once, like randomly because they found someone misspelled the word "the" or something, or if they've done it multiple times. Because it's a curious thing when you think of reviewing someone else's code. It's like someone else in the chat said that there's actually teams out there of people who do go through and review code, but I'm wondering if those are more corporate, focused than just like random, like a code review club. But we were talking about corporatism earlier, guys. What do you guys think of? Because there's been many cases in the last few years where an open source project, which has been truly open source, has been community driven, has been purchased by a company. Do you guys feel that when that type of thing happens, like with say Audacity, do you feel that it became less secure or more secure after the purchase or acquisition? Let's just say that it remains open source.
Oh, well, then I still feel like it's in the same state then.
You don't think that
I mean, obviously, things could change. They could add like a paywall or something. But if they haven't done that, then yeah, it's still in the same state as before.
because go ahead, Drew.
No, I was just going to agree with Nate, though. I mean, there has been so many open source projects that free automatically, and then paywall, and that kind of bothers me, frankly. That and I know that it shouldn't, because we all want to get paid for what we do really, really well, but the question is, is that that is a profit seeking kind of mission, and it kind of goes against FOSS. So, I don't care for it, but I do understand it.
I'll give you a good example of one that was really messed up. GitHub. Because as soon as Microsoft bought it,
But
how long do you have for me to rant?
GitHub wasn't open source to begin with, though, Nate.
No, it wasn't. But at the same time, you're talking about eventually a company bought it. And yeah, it got worse. It's way worse. I tried to push a file yesterday and I was limited to like 500 kilobytes
Really?
on upload. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing, but it's bad.
I mean, there's obviously a lot of examples where it happens outside of the open source community, like GitHub. I mean, Microsoft are notorious for buying something and then just shutting it down. Google does the same thing all the time. And that's not just with open source stuff. So yeah, that definitely happens. And then there's in the open source sphere, a lot of times it's like A really good example, we didn't think about this one, and this is one that we fight on all the time in the Linux community, is Red Hat. Red Hat was this company. It was open source. They were open source champions, and IBM, which is, why the fuck is IBM even still in business? They whatever. But they came along with their billions of dollars, which they somehow still make. I don't understand. Like, who uses IBM shit? But they came along and purchased Red Hat, and then now Red Hat is like, instead of being like the darlings of open source in terms of corporations, they are looked at with a lot of suspicion and fear, and they get scandals all the time. They're putting things behind paywalls and account sign-ins and all this stuff, and that's like the shining example of a company that came in and bought something that was basically beloved by the vast majority of the community, and has turned it completely around, where people just don't trust Red Hat, despite the fact that Red Hat still has their fingers in every pie, like the, GNOME and Wayland and Pipewire and all this stuff. They still develop the vast majority of it. People still have gone. They look at anything that's touched by Red Hat as something that they should have some suspicion over. They may still use the stuff, but it's no longer like an automatic, like, oh, this is made by Red Hat, it has to be good. Now it's like, it's made by Red Hat, I use it, but I don't know if I trust it all that much.
There's so many examples of things like that. And a lot of it is the actual code is what they're purchasing. Like, for example, I know I've used this, I've used this example before, but when I was working in software, I knew that Microsoft was going to buy this company called Visio. And this was, like I said, this might be 30 years ago now, but Visio was all about two things. One, flow charting. And the second thing was they had a software called IntelliCAD. Well, Microsoft wanted the flow charting software in the worst possible way so that they could add it to their Office suite of products. They didn't want anything to do with IntelliCAD because they didn't want AutoCAD to come after them and with an antitrust suit. So what they do, they made it the IntelliCAD consortium and open sourced that part of it. The goal, though, was to just get all that other software about flow charting so that they could just they just wanted to incorporate that. That's what they wanted to own. But they were afraid that they were going to get they were going to end up in court again.
I'm pretty sure he's been shadow banned. Obviously something went horribly wrong.
Fuck!
Okay. That was weird.
Yeah. Like Drew's just like, there 1 minute, gone the next.
Well, I had an example. If he does come back, a lot of people don't even remember that Docker used to be open source before they got bought and moved to a company, and that could be it's iffy with Docker.
That's why so many people point towards Podman and Kubernetes, right?
Yep.
Drew, I think Jitsi just got purchased by a company and decided to shut your ass down.
Oh man, something happened. I thought I lost my internet, but okay, we're back.
Yeah, Docker is another good example, Nate. The cool thing, though, about open source, at least in a lot of situations, is that there's the possibility if the company does come in and fuck everything up. A lot of people, like when Audacity was purchased, a lot of people decided they were going to fork Audacity and do something with it. Now, that didn't turn out for the vast majority of them. I know Tenacity is still around, but I don't know that anybody actually uses it. But at least there was the possibility that someone could fork that and carry on with it if MuseScore or whatever the company's name is decided to come in and totally effing up. And I think that's what happened with Docker. I don't know if Podman's like a fork of Docker, but somebody was able to take the idea at least and carry on with it and do the open source thing, right? So open source at least enables that possibility, whereas if you're talking like GitHub, you can take the idea, like GitLab existed before Microsoft bought GitHub, but somebody wanted an open source way of doing it, so they created GitHub, so that, at least that kind of thing existed.
Well, and then we have the the Google projects, taking stuff that are open source, claiming that they're still open source, but leaving one tiny piece of proprietary software that makes it unusable unless you have it.
Or Amazon does this a lot, where they'll take a piece of open source software, rebrand it and then make it their own. Like they just don't contribute upstream. It's just all of a sudden it's their thing. And I think they did this with the database software for sure. And I'm sure they've done it with other things because that's just their MO.
They even did it to Google. Google Play. Oh, now there's an Amazon store. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, the good news is nobody actually uses it. So turns out outside of Kindle, Amazon is shit at hardware. Like they're really bad at it. Have either of you guys actually ever bought one of their like tablets or whatever?
Oh crap! No, those things are terrible.
We had somebody gave us one, and it is it's like so bad. Now, granted, this was when it was first started. It was like had a resistive touchscreen, so you had to like remember those where you had to like actually forcibly press something on it so that it actually registered to the press. God, that was like the day. All right. Anyways, you guys have anything else to say on this topic, or we should move on to the Nuggies?
I'm good.
Moving on.
Unless Drew's got something.
All right. We'll go ahead then and move on to the Nuggies of the week. Now, the Nuggies are our section where we talk about the cool things that we've found. So this can be an app, it can be a tip, it can be a trick, it can be, whatever we want, basically. We have no rules because we're just flying by the seat of our pants. So, Drew, your Nuggie of the week.
So I saw an NVIM plugin. Now, granted, I am the world's worst NeoVim user. However, I use it at times for Markdown. And that's pretty much it, honestly. I use it for Markdown. So my tip of the week is a plugin called Render Markdown. And it's through GitHub. And it's, the GitHub user is Meandering Programmer / render-markdown. And it is really stinking awesome if you want to see, because I use two Markdown type plugins for my NeoVim config. And this is the newest one. The other one is like a Markdown previewer, so I can just look at the Markdown in an actual browser. But this really makes the code for Markdown editing look excellent.
I'll definitely have to check that out because I do the Markdown stuff in Vim all the time. So yeah, mostly I just hope and pray that what I've put in there comes out right at the end because I don't test it, but I definitely should test it. Nate, your Nuggie of the week, please.
So mine is going to be another piece of hardware. It's right now it's on sale on Amazon for $30, but it's the TP-Link Wi-Fi 6 PCIe card. In particular is the AX3000. The reason why I am promoting it is because behind me I have my server, and right now, because I am making a lot of changes to my setup and to my office, I don't have any Ethernet cables running. And I updated to a newer kernel and started having Wi-Fi issues off the USB dongle. And replacing it with this has actually made it 3 times even better for just using Wi-Fi and moving to Wi-Fi 6. And so now I think I had like 4 streams of my Plex server running at 4K. No issues, no lag. And so it's a pretty good little product, and it worked right out of the box. Just plugged it in. Everything was good. So if you need something that's quick and simple to upgrade your Wi-Fi, you might check that card out.
Cool. All right. So I'm recycling one, and I know that that's taboo, but I basically collect ebooks now. So I used to be a physical book reader. You guys probably have heard me say this before, but I've run out of room on my bookshelves. I just don't have any space for them. And now that I've switched to digital, it's really hard to go back to a physical book because you can't zoom in. Guys, my eyes are old, like really old. They just turned 40, and I can't see shit. So being able to zoom in is just like a game breaker. Or a game changer rather. And anyways. So I've moved all the digital. That means I'm replacing all of my books that I have in digital format. But I've been trying to work on a way to do it where I control them. I don't want to buy them all through Amazon or whatever. So I've been getting them through various places that offer DRM free stuff and other places. So I've been using Calibri a lot. And now I've done a Nuggie with Calibri before, but I believe I talked about Calibri Web. This is the actual application that runs on your Linux machine. It is uglier and shit out of the box. Like, it is really, really ugly, but you can make it look better if you hop into the appearance settings and play around. But if you get past the initial UI, it is so good being able to manage your ebooks, not only just, you can read them there too, but I don't know why you'd want to do that, because I just do it on my phone. But being able to manage it, and the thing that I love about it the most, like this is really cool. So a lot of the ebooks that I get the thing about metadata in ebooks is that everyone does it differently. So some of them do a really good job where it has description and series data and publication data and all that stuff. Some of them just put the title and that's where they leave it. So being able to get in there and hit and edit metadata and then hit the search button where it will actually pull the metadata down from Amazon or Goodreads or whatever and fills it all in for you. It's just like, it's magic. It's really, really good. And it will also allow you to send it to your mobile device once you want to read it. So that's cool. So if you do anything with ebooks, look at Calibre. Try to look past the initial UI, because like it is bad and it looks like it was developed by someone who is really obsessed with Windows 98. But past that, fantastic piece of software. And obviously 100% open source. So there you go. All right. I believe that does us for this week. So thanks everybody for joining us. If you want to join us live, you can do so. We record this every Tuesday at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. I had to think about that for a second. I don't know why. But anyways, you can join us live at youtube.com/linuxcast, or if you want to catch us afterwards, if you can't join us live, we do post a slightly edited version where there are fewer ums. And all that stuff is done by Mr. Nate there, and we post that on Saturday evenings. So you can catch that there. You can get that on the YouTube channel or on any podcatcher that you choose. If you are on Pocket Casts or on Apple, please do feel free to leave us a review. We'd be really appreciative if you did that. It would really help the channel. I believe we're like at 46 reviews on Pocket Casts at the moment, so winning. I know it doesn't seem like much, but for me, it's fantastic. It's like 46 people actually decided to do it. Getting people to actually leave a review on a podcast seems to be pulling freaking teeth. So if you have an Apple account, even if you don't listen to us on Apple Podcasts, go leave us a review. We'd really appreciate it. Like I said, it really help the podcast. So if you want to get in contact with us, the best way to do so is head on over to the website, which is linuxcast.org. There you'll find previous podcasts and blog posts, but you can also head on over to the linuxcast.org/contact, where you'll find all of our information, but you can specifically go check out our YouTube channel. So Nate is Nate Picks Tech World on YouTube. He posts the occasional video, so you definitely head on over there and check him out. Drew, he makes awesome content, Debian, Vim, and scripting, and all sorts of awesome stuff. Go check his stuff out. He's Just a Guy Linux, as you can see by the merch that he refuses to sell to anyone else. The stingy bastard. Hey, you want? I do actually have one of those, but you have to know him to get one. You know. Unfortunately, I moved my desk around, so it no longer appears on camera, so I can't tease people with it. But anyways, Just a Guy Linux on YouTube. Go check it out. All right, so I believe that is it. So if you would like a Linux nerd hat, go check out shop.linuxcast.org. I have obviously awesome merch over there as well, and I actually sell mine, so go check it out. Anyways, it's gonna be a perpetual dig, because he needs a store so he can buy some awesome merch. Anyways, that's it for this one. We'll see you guys next week.